Hello everyone and welcome back to Explore Engineering. In today's video, we'll explore the fascinating world of Indian linguistic traditions, one of the oldest and most scientific language systems in the world. We'll learn about the important linguistic disciplines of the Vedangas, Vyakarana grammar, Shiksha, phonetics, Nirukta, etymology, and Chandas, prosody, and understand how ancient Indian scholars preserved language, knowledge, and culture with remarkable precision. So let's begin our journey into the rich linguistic heritage of India. So here, Indian linguistic traditions, it is one of the oldest and most scientific systems of language study in the world. And it explains that ancient Indian scholars developed a systematic approach to language through Vedangas. Then here, this the Vedangas were the auxiliary disciplines associated with the Vedas, and we have here four important linguistic disciplines, that is the Vyakarana, grammar, which studies the language structure. Then you have Shiksha, that is the phonetics, which focuses on sounds and pronunciation. Then comes the Nirukta, etymology, which explains the meanings and origins of the words. And then last is the Chandas, that is prosody, which studies poetic meters. Okay, so together these disciplines preserved the accuracy of sacred text and established a strong scientific foundation for language and literature. The major components of Indian linguistic traditions are the Vyakarana, that is the grammar, second is Shiksha, phonetics, then comes the Nirukta, that is the etymology, and last is the Chandas, that is the prosody. Now we'll see these one by one. So first is the Vyakarana, that is the grammar. It is one of the major components of the Indian linguistic tradition and an important Vedanga. It introduces Vyakarana as the scientific study of grammar and the structure of language. And here you can see the ancient scholar Pāṇini writing a manuscript represents his significant contribution to Sanskrit grammar. His famous work Aṣṭādhyāyī is regarded as one of the world's earliest and most systematic grammar texts. Now here you can see the key features of the Vyakarana. These explain that grammar studies how words are formed, how sentences are constructed correctly, and how rules are established for proper language usage. These grammatical principles help eliminate errors and ensure that language is usually accurately and consistently. It is used accurately and consistently, and the symbols beside each point emphasize learning, structure, correctness, and scholarly contribution. So here you can see the importance of Vyakarana. It states that the grammar played a vital role in preserving the purity and accuracy of the Sanskrit language, and by following well-defined grammatical rules, scholars were able to transmit the Vedas, then sacred text and classical literature without changes in meaning or the pronunciation. This ensured that knowledge remained authentic across generations. So overall, you can say that Vyakarana is the foundation of the Indian linguistic, and it demonstrates how the scientific study of grammar not only improved communication but also safeguarded India's literary, cultural, and spiritual heritage, making it an essential discipline in the preservation of ancient knowledge. Next comes the Shiksha, that is the phonetics. It is one of the important components of the Indian linguistic tradition and a key Vedanga. So here, Shiksha is the scientific study of sounds, pronunciation, and proper recitation. And here you can see a guru who is teaching the students in a Gurukul represents the traditional method of preserving knowledge through oral instruction. And the sound waves, here you can see the sound waves and Sanskrit symbol. It emphasizes the importance of correct pronunciation in ancient Indian education. Here you can see the main features of the Shiksha. These explain that Shiksha teaches the correct pronunciation of the letters, words, pitch, stress, and rhythm. These elements were essential for the accurate recitation of the Vedas and other sacred texts. The image also emphasizes here that even a small mistake in pronunciation could change the meaning of a Vedic mantra. making precise speech extremely important. Icons representing pronunciation, rhythm, sacred text, and oral tradition further illustrate these concepts. So here you can see the importance of the Shiksha. Here it highlights that the discipline helped preserve the original pronunciation of sacred text through oral tradition for thousands of years, and students memorized and recited the Vedas exactly as taught by their teachers, ensuring that knowledge remained unchanged across generations. So here you can see that the Shiksha is the foundation of correct speech and recitation, and it demonstrates how accurate pronunciation safeguarded the purity of the Vedas and played a vital role in preserving India's linguistic, cultural, and spiritual heritage. Then comes the Nirukta, that is the etymology. So here again it is one of the important components of the Indian linguistic tradition and a significant Vedanga. It introduces that here this image, it introduces that Nirukta as the study of the meanings and origins of words, and it helps the scholars understand the vocabulary used in ancient Sanskrit literature. And here you can see ancient sage studying manuscripts represents a scholarly effort involved in interpreting difficult words found in the Vedas and other sacred texts. So now here you can see how the Nirukta analyzes the meaning and derivation of the words by breaking them, okay, here by breaking them into their roots. Now this process helped the scholars understand not only the literal meaning of words but also their deeper philosophical and contextual significance. The book, the books here you can see, and the manuscript illustrations, these symbolizes the study of the ancient scriptures and the preservation of linguistic knowledge. Here you can see the key features of the Nirukta. It explains that the discipline studies the meanings and the origin of words, clarifies difficult terms found in ancient scriptures, and enables scholars to understand the context and deeper meaning of the Vedic literature. The accompanying icons represent learning, interpretation, then knowledge, emphasizing the analytical nature of the discipline. So here at the bottom you can see the importance of the Nirukta. It states that Nirukta preserved the true meanings of ancient words and improved the interpretation of sacred texts. And by accurately explaining difficult vocabulary, it ensured that the teachings of the Vedas were understood correctly and passed on without misunderstanding. So here overall you can say that Nirukta is a vital branch of Indian linguistic that safeguarded the meaning of ancient scriptures and contributed significantly to the preservation of the India's linguistic, cultural, and philosophical heritage. Here this Sanskrit word, it is nothing but Agni. Here the image uses it as a simple explanation. Okay, here like simple example in order to illustrate the idea of the Nirukta, that is the etymology, studying the meaning and origin of words. So Agni is what? Agni means fire. In tradition, in traditional etymological explanations, the word is analyzed into smaller root elements in order to understand its deeper meaning. So here you have adu. Okay, this is adu. It means to move. This is ni. Ni means within or down. Then you have gu. So it means to give light or to shine. So from these elements, the image gives the meaning, that which moves within and gives the light. Okay, meaning is what? That which moves within and gives the light. So this interpretation symbolically describes fire as something that spreads or moves, exists within objects, produces light and heat. Okay, then next you have the Chandas, that is a prosody. So here it is again one of the important components of the Indian linguistic tradition and a significant Vedanga. It introduces Chandas at the scientific study of poetic meters and rhythmic patterns used in the Vedic literature. Now here you can see an ancient sage reading and composing verses, represents a traditional method of preserving Vedic knowledge through structured poetry and recitation. And here this is the chart which displays different Vedic meters, highlighting the organized system used to compose sacred hymns. These are the key features of the Chandas. It states that Chandas defines how verses should be composed and recited by following specific metrical patterns. Then these rhythmic structures made Vedic hymns easier to memorize and recite accurately, ensuring consistency during the oral transmission. And the icons representing the poetry, books, and the speech emphasize the relationship between the rhythm, language, and the recitation. So here you can see the importance of the Chandas. It explains that the poetic meters preserve the beauty, rhythm, and accuracy of ancient Sanskrit poetry and Vedic hymns. So because the verses followed fixed patterns, students could remember long passages more easily and reproduce them without mistakes. And this played a crucial role in preserving the sacred knowledge over many generations. So Chandas is a vital branch of Indian linguistic that combined language with rhythm and poetry, and it ensured that ancient scriptures remained accurate, melodious, and easy to memorize, thereby preserving India's rich literary, cultural, and spiritual heritage through the systematic oral tradition. Now here we have some of the characteristics of the Indian linguistic. First is the scientific approach. Then here you have a scientific approach, then you have preservation of knowledge, integration with philosophy, and oral and written traditions. So like here you can see a guru is teaching students in a gurukul at the center, which symbolizes the traditional education system where knowledge was passed directly from the teacher to the disciple through disciplined learning and oral instruction. And surrounding this central illustration, there are four important characteristics which define the richness of India's linguistic heritage. That is the scientific approach, preservation of knowledge, integration with philosophy, and oral and written traditions. This scientific approach, it explains that language was studied systematically using precise grammatical rules, pronunciation, and sentence structure. And ancient scholars treated grammar, phonetics, and language analysis as scientific disciplines, ensuring accuracy and consistency in communication. Then second is preservation of knowledge, where there is a transmission of the Vedas and other sacred texts from one generation to the other generation. Okay, here. And strict linguistic rules ensured that these texts remains unchanged over the centuries. So here the image of the teachers guiding the students demonstrates the careful preservation of knowledge through disciplined education. Then the third section is the integration with philosophy, which highlights that language was regarded as more than a means of communication, and Indian thinkers believed that language could express truth, knowledge, and spiritual wisdom. And the symbols of the meditation, then the lotus, and you have the sacred knowledge, which represent the close relationship between the language, philosophy, and the spirituality. And the fourth section is the oral and written traditions, which shows students reciting. Okay, here reciting scriptures and palm leaf manuscripts. Okay, so which are used for recording the knowledge. And ancient teachers trained students to memorize text accurately through the oral recitation, while the manuscripts preserved them for future generations. And this combination of oral and written traditions ensured the long-term preservation of India's intellectual heritage. So overall, we can say that Indian linguistic tradition was highly advanced, combining scientific analysis, accurate knowledge preservation, philosophical depth, and effective teaching methods. And these characteristics helped preserve the Vedas, literature, and cultural heritage for thousands of years. And here we can see that the ancient linguistic system not only strengthened the language and literature, but also contributed significantly to education, philosophy, and the continuity of one of the world's oldest civilization. So here we can say that Indian linguistic traditions demonstrate the remarkable scientific and intellectual achievements of the ancient India. And through grammar, phonetics, etymology, and prosody, our scholars developed a systematic approach to language that preserved the Vedas, literature, and cultural heritage for thousands of years. And these traditions continue to inspire modern studies in linguistics, then literature and philosophy. So I hope this video helped you to understand the significance of Indian linguistic heritage. And if you found this video informative, please like, share, and subscribe to Explore Engineering for more educational videos on Indian knowledge systems. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye and happy learning.